Welcome to One Girl in All the World, a Buffy rewatch podcast where we watch each episode in order and discuss. I'm Ashley, Buffy superfan.
I'm Kimmy, Buffy new fan.
Buffy newbie. So welcome to our first official episode. We are going to be talking about season 1, episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth. I figured since I started this kind of thing last episode, I'm wearing another Buffy shirt. So if you are on YouTube, you can see it.
I feel so underprepared with my non-Buffy wardrobe.
It's a very, it's a drawing of one character done by another character in the very last episode.
Oh, okay. I feel like my shirt is a throwback to the 90s though, so I feel like
there you go. Yeah, a lot of butterflies in this, like, the first 2 seasons, so which were cute and very popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, so if you know I'll have to definitely, when we get to that episode, definitely have to wear the shirt.
It said it's in the last episode?
It's the very last episode.
Okay, that's going to be in a while then.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I might be on my third version of this, my third, I have to rebuy it a few times. This will be a while. So I'll just have to rotate through all my Buffy shirts.
How many Buffy shirts are there, out of curiosity? Or are we saving that? Is that a secret? So we just find out as the podcast goes on?
Well, it probably will change as we go on because, this will take a while. But I have a sweater and 3 t-shirts.
Okay. I feel like I have to get at least one Buffy item of clothing before the end of this podcast.
Is that it? I think that's it. I might have some buried other places, but yeah. Okay. So, yes. Now I'm unsure, but I know for sure. There might be a few more, but anyway, that's my Buffy fit check for this episode. So speaking of that, if we're on iTunes currently, so if we expand that, we'll let you know here, and then we're also on YouTube. So if you like to put a face to the name and you want to watch us record, you can do it there. So you can listen to the episode and also watch us record it. So that was really fun editing the first episode for the YouTube version. So that was
glad
fun.
That is all you. It does. Ashley basically does everything, and I show up and I'm cute.
You just get to enjoy the show.
That's right.
This is great. Okay, so we are dealing with Welcome to the Hellmouth today, which is the first episode of the first season. And we talked a little bit, before we get into the actual episode, last episode in our intro episode about how the first season has 12 episodes. The first season has 12 episodes because it was a mid-season replacement. And I was wondering what show it had replaced on the WB. Because the WB, it was a really new network then. I mean, it blew up throughout the years. Buffy was on it. Yeah, I mean, it was the hottest thing to watch. It was the hottest channel for teenagers in early 20s. Yeah. But at that point, it was still extremely new. And they were trying to find good shows and everything. So the show that got canceled was called Savannah. And I actually had heard of it. Now, when I looked it up, I was like, oh, I think I maybe have seen an episode of this not when it was airing, but on the, at some point in the past. And it was basically about 3 girlfriends who live in Savannah, Georgia. And basically just their lives. And they're all 3 very different characters. And they're all best friends. And then it's just what's happening in their lives. And it lasted 2 seasons. Apparently, it was a huge hit the first season. And then the second season, they apparently had a lot of creative problems and it got canceled.
Oh, sure. Halfway through the season.
Yeah. And then Buffy was the replacement for the rest of the season, which was a great move for the WB because Buffy was one of the biggest shows that was on WB for all these years.
Huge, yeah. Yeah. And it went on forever, yeah.
Yeah. So, it was on the WB until season 5. So that was just a little backstory on this season. And I didn't know that. I knew it was a mid-season replacement. That's very common knowledge, Buffy knowledge. But I just was curious what show took it, what show it had replaced. So, but now we can get into the actual episode. And so the air date for Welcome to the Hellmouth was March 10th, 1997. So that's why every year March 10th is Buffy Slay Day. So it's people post things. And that's when we actually announced the premiere date of our podcast on March 10th. Because I was it's coming up. I'm just going to wait until we get to Slay Day. So that's a big day in the Buffy community every year. And so it was written by Josh Whedon, who is the creator. He writes a lot of the big episodes, and obviously the first one is a pretty big one. And it was directed by Charles Martin Smith. And so I'm going to read the synopsis for each episode. We're going to get a feel of how we're going to like go through these episodes, what we're going to include and what we're not going to include. So the first season, maybe even, we're still going to try to figure out like how we want to address the podcast episodes and the Buffy episodes. So I think I like to hear about when it aired, who was, because then you can like say, where was I in my life, you know, or things like that. You can kind of think about that too, which is fun for me. So this episode and the next episode, The Harvest, was originally shown back to back.
Oh, okay.
That's why they did the to be continued. Because that never happened.
Really
again.
bothered me. I texted Ashley last night and I'm like, why is it to be continued? Like, yeah. I need to know what happens next. And she's like, you have to wait.
Yeah. So on TV, if you're watching it on TV when it aired, you went right into the next episode. But on the DVDs and everywhere else, it's been, because it's not just one episode, it has two different titles and everything. Like it's always been separated. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go that way. Okay. Yeah, so the synopsis is picking up where the feature film left off, which we know Kimmy is a fan of. Buffy Summers and her mom moved to Sunnydale, California for a fresh start, unaware of the evil lurking in this quiet suburb. Somewhat reluctant in her role as the Slayer, Buffy quickly makes friends and enemies at her new school, while also meeting her new watcher, Giles. The mercurial school librarian, her newly assembled team encounters the ever-abundant unearthly creatures in Sunnydale. Yeah.
So I have a question. Sunnydale is a made-up place, correct?
It is a okay, woo! We're jumping right in. There's a lot of debate about Sunnydale.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, so Sunnydale is a made-up place, and people have scoured episodes. Every, like, unbelievable detail about where Sunnydale is. And most people fall on like different sides of the fences on this. Most evidence, but not all the evidence supports this, says it's Santa Barbara.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. There's also evidence that it is our very own Sunnyvale, California. Okay. Yeah. Which I like that one because
that's where we live.
We live. I remember seeing that before I ever moved to California, and I was like, oh, Sunnyvale, California, and like, yeah. It's like right in our backyard. Yeah. There's also some, like Northern California, Santa Barbara mostly, and then like other things in like Northern California. There was like one like over in the East Bay. Because like anytime they look at a map or anytime they say anything about distances, like for example, in this episode we'll get to where Buffy says, when Giles says, do you know anything about this town? And she says, I know it's 2 hours on the freeway from Neiman Marcus. So there's your first like clue that you could put on a list.
I did hear her say that. Okay.
Yeah, like so stuff like that. Like that is somewhere that people have looked into that.
Okay. Cool.
We'll go through like as I see them, like as we go through like where people like honestly really care about where Sunnydale is.
Yeah.
The school, Sunnydale High School, is Torrance High School in Torrance, California.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
And I've been there. And I've took pictures in front of it, like in the rail where Xander hits, falls over the railing on his skateboard. I've stood in front of that and taken a picture. I have to go back. I haven't been in a while, and I'm in the area all the time. So I do need to go back, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. But I'm already talking about things in the episode, and we haven't started yet. Yeah. But, there's a lot of evidence that it's Santa Barbara, and then north of that in our area. So, and obviously she started out in L.A., so she did go north of LA with her mom.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So Sunnydale. I'm probably going to mix that up a few times. I'll be talking about Sunnydale. I'll say Sunnydale. I mean, wait, that's not real. That's not a real place. So it's supposed to be just a little nowhere kind of town.
Okay.
Which none of the places that it's supposed to be are, but that's kind of the feeling you want to get. It's a very small suburb. Okay. So we start out with this kind of montage because there's a lot of lore with Buffy, and especially if you didn't watch the movie, sorry. There's a lot of lore that goes into it, like a lot of history and like destiny and duty and all this stuff. So they kind of do a little start thing here. There's a montage and there's a voiceover saying, in every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the slayer. So it kind of tells you that Buffy is a slayer and she slays these supernatural things right off the bat. Because there's a lot of exposition in this episode and the next episode where it's all laid out for you. What a slayer is, what a watcher is, what the Hellmouth is. Like, there's a lot to learn about the world already. So they kind of set it up for that. So the first scene we actually have is the school at night. And there's like two teenagers, basically. I think he says that he's used to go there. So he's probably 19, 20, whatever, 18, 19, 20. And so they break into the school at night, and he's obviously like, hey, I'm going to show you this cool rooftop. You can see the whole town. He's obviously trying to get her in there for some funky business. And she's like, oh, no. She's the blonde, like the typical, like, Ditzy. Would die in a horror movie. Which is why they wanted Buffy to be blonde. Because they wanted her to, like, be who you would expect to just die in a horror movie right away, which is funny because that's basically, other than this, is what Sarah Michelle Gellar did in the 90s, was be killed by killed by people, like in Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah. So these two teenagers come in there. He's trying to, like, get it on with her. She's kind of creeped out about the school. And do you hear that? No, I don't hear anything. We shouldn't be in here. Like, she's very timid and worried about being in the school. And surprise, it turns out that this blonde girl is a vampire and she bites the guy.
Yeah, it was a good distraction method because I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, and that was exactly what you were supposed to feel.
I assumed that some vampire was going to come out of, like, the shadows and, or something else was going to happen.
Or he was the vampire.
Or he was the vampire, yeah. Definitely not her. It wasn't going to be her.
Yeah, but, and that's exactly the kind of, like, turning that kind of stereotype of, like, the blonde, innocent, young girl, whatever, in horror movies, like, on its head, which is what kind of, like, the initial idea for Buffy was before everything else came along. So
that worked well.
Yeah, so she bites him, oh, gosh, and then we go to the first opening credits. So the theme song is by Nerf Herder, is the band, and Joss Whedon says that he found the band because they were looking for, they had somebody compose something and it just wasn't working, and so they were, like, looking for bands, relatively unknown bands. Buffy, the show, has really been a champion of, like, unknown bands. There's only been a few people on there that are, like, were known by the time that they were on the show.
Okay.
Michelle Branch makes an appearance, and everyone knew who Michelle Branch was at that point. Like, she was really popular. But, like, other than that, it's always been, like, really, like, they've given a lot of bands a leg up.
I do like the theme song. Like, it even carries over, like, I'd say into today. It's like, it's good, solid.
Yeah, it is. So Allison Hannigan suggested Nerf Herder to him. Oh. And that's how he came on to the band. And then
cool.
They got a pretty good gig, getting paid every time it plays. So good for them, for Nerf Herder. So the iconic Buffy theme, we see it. And then we get the credits, and obviously it runs through everyone that's going to be on the show. And it just basically Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, and then Nicholas Brendon as Xander, Allison Hannigan as Willow, Charisma Carpenter as Cordelia, and Anthony Stewart Head as Giles. Not one of these names is normal. I love it.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I never really thought about that.
I mean, Giles is that's his last name. So he has, like, his name's Rupert, which we will come to find out.
Also still not super
It's very British. Very British.
Not common, yeah.
No, it's a very British name, though.
I don't think I've met a Rupert.
No, but I think definitely his generation of England would probably be a lot more Ruperts.
Right.
And Willow is, like, my favorite name. If I ever, like, had a kid and it was a girl, Willow would be the name.
That's a pretty name.
I love the name Willow. But yeah, I love the quirky names and they just continue, really, like, crazy names in this show. So we see, like, all these little bits and pieces of season 1 that we're gonna see, some in this episode. So then we come back into the show, and we are in what we will discover is Buffy's bedroom, and she's in bed, tossing and turning, having a nightmare. So in the dream, or the nightmare, we see, like, all these different images flash. I just wrote a few of them down. So we see, like, kind of like blood, a lair with candles and people walking around with torches, a graveyard, a statue, a vampire with his arms like spread open, kind of in like a crucifixion pose, and then a cross necklace and what looks like kind of like zombie vampires, like kind of just like walking, like very Walking Dead, not The Walking Dead, sure The Walking Dead, but Night of the Living Dead is what I was thinking. Okay. Is what I saw there. And then the vampire that you see a few frames earlier, like turns his face to her and scares her awake. And basically it's her she's awake and her mom is telling her to get ready for school because it's going to be your first day and you don't want to be late. And you can see around her bed, there's like, obviously that, well, she said it's her first day, but it's obviously that
boxes.
Yeah, there's boxes and they've moved. So then we get to Sunnydale High School, which, like I said, is Torrance High School in Torrance, California. And Buffy's mom drops her off and telling her, like, don't worry, you'll make friends and try not to get kicked out, which is, right? Just nicely dovetails with the movie.
Right.
Because Buffy gets kicked out of her school at the end of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. She heads into the school, and then we switched and we meet our, like, first secondary, not really secondary, but the second character that we meet, Xander, who's riding through the crowd on a skateboard. And in the commentary, it was funny because Joss Whedon said, like, this is the only time in the whole show Xander rides a skateboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was, like, really hard to shoot. It was expensive to shoot because you have to use a track. You have to put a track down and everything. Okay. And they didn't have any money. Everything they wanted to do, they didn't have the money for it. So he's like, once we, like, did that, we were like, yeah, we're not doing that again. It took too much time.
It was cool, though.
Yeah, it's a good introduction to Xander. And they said they like you'll see it in his hand a few more times just to be like, ease it out.
Okay.
Because, it would be weird if he rode that and then you literally never saw him with it again. Yeah. So you do see it here and there, but that was a one-time thing for Xander's character. But he sees Buffy walking up the stairs and he's immediately smitten with her.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, love at first sight, and he slams into the railing and goes under the railing. That
looked really bad.
Yeah, and I think he said that Nicholas Brenda did that stunt.
Oh, shoot. Doing that stunt. Ouch, okay.
So right after that, we meet our next main character, which is Willow, which obviously Xander and Willow know each other. And he asks help with homework, and, they're kind of just chit-chatting about school. So then they both walk in, and they meet another character named Jessie, which obviously seems like a close friend of Xander. And they immediately start talking about the new girl, like how hot she is, and, like, what do you know about her? Nothing. And not much. Yeah. Not much, but they're intrigued, for sure, about this new blonde bombshell. Let's enter the villa. Let's enter the You watch Love Island. You'll appreciate that. And then we get to Principal Flutie's office. Now, I'm going to come back to the scene when we talk about the unaired pilot. We'll go at the end. We'll talk about the unaired pilot, like the differences and stuff. But this person was not originally cast as Principal Flutie, and who was, I actually wish they would have kept, because it's actually an actor that I have seen in everything, and he's so funny, and maybe it was a scheduling conflict, I don't know, because he was so great. Buffy's in the principal's office and, just being onboarded for her first day, and the principal, is very much rips up her transcripts and is like, you get a fresh start here in Sunnydale. We don't care what you did. And then he kind of actually looks at her current transcript and sees that she...
and then he's like, just kidding.
Burnt down the gym at her old school. And he starts taping it back together. And being like, oh, yeah, this is interesting. And she tries to explain.
He's trying to be like the cool principal, but that's a little excessive even for him.
Yeah. And he says, oh, the kids call me Bob. And she's like, Bob. He's like, but they don't. The kids are free to call me Bob. That's what he says. The kids are free to call me Bob. And she's like, Bob. He's like, but they don't call me Bob. So he definitely wants to be down with the kids and want them to trust him and come in and talk to him. And he wants to be cool with them. But I don't think he ever really gets there.
It's not really working.
No.
Nope.
So basically he kind of tells her without telling her, you've got to watch it. Even though he's like, other schools would tell you to watch your back. But we're not going to say that. And he's very, looking out the side of his eye at her. And she tries to explain why she burnt down the gym. Was because it was full of vampires. Asbestos.
Oh, yeah, that was really funny, actually. I mean, because, what are you going to say? That's such an awkward position to be in.
Yeah, like she's like, I was trying to save the entire school. Like, what do you expect me to do? It was full of vampires. Asbestos. And so it's not starting off like strong with her history following her from LA. Yeah, so we get into the hallway and Buffy is kind of like frazzled. She's holding her bag and someone runs into her and she drops all of her crap all over the floor.
This is actually my favorite scene.
Is it your favorite scene? Okay. Yeah, and Xander is kind of walking ahead and sees us and he's like, ooh, golden opportunity to talk to the new girl.
Yep.
And he walks up to her to help her pick up her stuff and he says, can I have you?
And she's like a little stunned.
Yeah. Like, who's this dork? Who's this doofus? Because he does come across that way.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I thought of you when I heard that line again because it made me think of Casper. It led me to say, can I keep you?
Right, yes.
And I didn't know why, but it just like...
That was cute.
It was close to it, the line. So it made me think of Casper, can I keep you? So they just meet and he just kind of asks her like, you know, like she's the new girl and she kind of like is distracted, obviously, and runs off. And Xander is like, oh, I made such a dummy of myself and first impression was not good.
Yeah.
And then he finds her steak.
A steak, yes. I love this part because it's just like one of the things that she kind of struggles with is not being able to tell people stuff. And then, so this is for me, like, at least, this was like foreshadowing, like, okay, like he's seeing the steak, like what else is going to play out from this? Like, it's almost like a, you know, a nice hint of what's to come.
Yeah. So he finds you forgot your steak and he just holds it. So it's like, uh-oh, she's going to have to do some explaining.
Yep.
When that comes back around.
Yeah.
And it's funny when she was in the principal's office writing a little bit, when she like kind of was just like, oh, it's full of vampire. And then she stops herself. I feel like everything's still so new to her. I don't know if it should go one way or the other. I don't know if she should be so aware of what she's saying because of like not to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Or she's just so loose. She's a little bit loose-lipped about it. Like she kind of has to catch herself a lot more. And that definitely goes away as the years go on.
Yeah. I think like for the pilot episode at least, and like I said, I haven't seen a lot of this show, but it's just like she doesn't strike me as someone super guarded, super, I don't know if careful is the right word, but yeah, so just having to do this is just kind of like it's hard for her because she's just used to being able to be herself.
Yeah, I think she's still very much the Buffy from the movie at this point. Mm-hmm. Like she's been through becoming the Slayer has like rocked her entire world, changed her whole life.
Yeah.
But there's more like crazy things that happen to her along the way that make her guarded.
Yeah.
Make her very much guarded.
Yeah, she's like gonna have to be.
That for better or worse. Mm-hmm. And that's actually like a storyline later on. So, you know, it is interesting here to go back for me and see how she is in the beginning. Like she's much, even though she's had a serious life change.
Yeah.
One that we couldn't even contemplate if if this happened to me tomorrow, I'd be like, oh my God, your entire worldview is completely, obviously, you know. But she's still pretty like lighthearted, you know. She has moments of where like it's serious, like we kind of get the seriousness of being a Slayer in this this but she's still pretty. She
tries to keep the humor in it, keep her her spirit in it,
yeah. So then we're finally in class, and she's in there, and the teacher is talking about the Black Death / the Black Plague, and she's talking about like something in the textbook, and so the girl next to her offers her textbook to look in on it, and we find out that it's Cordelia, who comes to be known as Cordy. So I'll probably refer to her as Cordy. But it's Cordelia, and you can tell right away she's like the cool girl at school. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she says she like would die to live in LA. She's like, oh, you're the new girl, you're from LA, right? And she would like die to live in LA. And she's like, definitely, because Buffy's from LA, she definitely feels like she's worthy to bring into her group.
Yep.
And then she has her do this coolness test.
So ridiculous.
And it was weird because most of it I got, but then when they did the like, I'm remembering back, like they said like John Tesh, and I was like, who is that? I don't even know.
Yeah, I didn't know who that was.
So I Googled it, and it's like a TV presenter / like pop music composer.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I get the reference now, but why would he be the devil? I tried to look in like that time frame, like the late 90s, like what was he up to? Like, did he do something? Was there some kind of controversy? Did he get like do a flap of something? A gaffe? What was it? Like, why would he be the devil? I didn't figure it out. So let us know if you know like why he would be like, I figured out who he was, but why he would be regarded as the devil, I don't know. Uncool. Maybe like he just wasn't cool.
Yeah.
I really don't know, but yeah, apparently that's not good if you like John Tesh in the late 90s and if you're a teenage girl.
Yeah.
So that was something that I looked up because I had heard that line all the time, but I never was like, I don't know who that is. But I'm deep diving.
I also love how like Cordelia is so nice to Buffy, but then you quickly realize like it's, I don't want to say fake nice, but it's just like she's only nice to certain people. Like she definitely has like a specific friendship she wants out of people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't provide that, you quickly become her enemy, which we see. Yeah, so she's walking, doing the coolness test, and they run into Willow, which is exactly what you're talking about. Willow's drinking at the water fountain, and she's just like turns into this horrible, horrible person.
She's so mean. I was like, what the heck? Damn, girl.
Basically telling Willow to get out of the way because she wants to use the water fountain and like making fun of her clothes, saying she saw the softer side of Sears.
That's so mean.
Which I remember that being like a thing.
I mean, my mom definitely bought me stuff from Sears when I was in high school.
Who didn't? Like, come on. I mean, it's not the worst outfit Willow ever wears because she wears some like, she has her own fashion sense after this.
Fashion, yeah.
She definitely, pretty much immediately, her clothes change in the show. Like, she has like really wild style. And this is not that. This is like nuns are us. Okay. So, but yeah, it's not great. But yeah, she's just so mean about it.
Yeah.
And Buffy immediately is like, oh, and then like, like yikes.
See her reaction, and she doesn't like it. She doesn't like people being mean to other people.
Yeah. So I say like my notes here. Cordy's kind of like true personality is revealed in that moment.
Very quickly.
Think she kind of like hangs on for a little bit, but like that's her. Like you believe it. You believe it that that's her. It wasn't like just a moment, because everybody's had moments where they like fell short of their own. I was mean. You know what I mean? Like I was mean and I shouldn't have been mean in that past or whatever to that person. I should have been not as impatient or whatever. That happens. We're all humans, right?
But this is just her.
You believe that's Cordy.
Yep.
And it is. So, and she invites her to the Bronze, which is like a big location in the show. And it's like basically an underage, even though they hang out there after they're not underage, it's basically like an underage club.
Yeah.
Like we have a stage and everything, as we'll see. They like bands there. You go there, hang out and drink or whatever. Drink all kinds of different things, like non-alcoholic and otherwise, because they're all underage when they go there.
Yeah.
So she invites her to go there, and it's in the bad part of town, half a block from the good part of town.
I love that.
Yeah, another kind of nod to like trying to make Sunnydale very small and boring and not really worth anybody's time, like to visit or do anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and she also shows her the way to the library because Buffy needs her own textbooks. We get to the library and Buffy is looking at the paper that's sitting out, and like there's an article that's circled and it says local boys still missing. So basically, there's something afoot here, and we don't really know what it is yet, but obviously there's stuff going on. And then she gets startled by the librarian, and she wants some textbooks. And he introduces himself as Mr. Giles, and he is like Miss Summers, so he's looking for her, and he goes behind and pulls out this huge vampire book, vampire spelled with a Y, and he just thuds it down in front of her, and his face is so giddy when he pulls this like book out, and he just throws it on the table. He's like, I'm so happy that you've come for this book. But of course Buffy is horrified and doesn't want anything to do with it, so that's not what I'm looking for, and he's confused. But he's shit, sorry.
Like,
sorry
did I get the wrong girl?
Shouldn't have shown you that. And then he just like, she runs out of the library.
Yeah, she just doesn't want to deal with this right now.
Or ever, preferably.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
So then we go to the locker room, and there are girls talking shit about Buffy. And this is like really a funny line that I had forgotten about. But one girl says, like, what kind of name is Buffy? And then a girl walks by her and says, hey, Aphrodisia.
All of their names are so funny.
Yeah, it's
They're
like
very interesting names.
Yeah, Aphrodisia is her name, but she's making fun of the name Buffy.
Yeah.
And it's also when the girl opens, the other girl that she's talking to says like, I heard she got kicked out of school. She was starting fights and all this, and like just spreading all these rumors, which are probably true, I guess.
Yeah.
She starts to open the locker, which we see a dead guy fell out of. But before that, as soon as she opens it, she says, I heard it from Blue. So there's somebody walking around the school called Blue, apparently. So just the weird name fest just continues. Just can't get enough of it. So a dead guy falls out of the locker and falls on her, and she's screaming her head off.
Yeah.
And everyone's, freaking out. And you can see pretty much right away that it's the boy that was bit in the beginning, in the opening scene.
Yeah, so that comes back around.
That girl bit him and then stuck him in the locker. So then we go to the courtyard, and Willow's sitting there eating her lunch, and Buffy comes up to her. And of course, with Willow earlier seeing Buffy and Cordelia together, she's on the, basically like a puppy rolling over and on their stomach, like, I'm surrendering, like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, she's like, submissive.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, do you want me to move? Like, oh. And Buffy's just very like, let's start from the beginning, and introduces herself and asks her if she can like help her get caught up on homework. Because, Willow's like smart, a bookworm and stuff. So, and then Willow is very receptive to that, but also knows like, you can't hang out with me and hang out with Cordelia at the same time.
Exactly.
Like, this isn't going to work out.
These two groups don't mix.
It's not going to work out for you. So they're kind of talking about that and meeting in the library, which Buffy doesn't want to do. And here we find out that Giles the librarian, is new to town, and he has all these like kind of rare books and everything. And she's immediately, of course, suspicious. I mean, the vampire book probably tipped her off first, but it is more like planning that he has a lot. He's got something to do with all of this.
Yeah. And she's hoping she'd get a break.
The Slayer stuff, that he's involved. Jesse and Xander come over, and he returns the steak, and she's like, oh. I love when he says, you're only thing I think of is that you're building a really tiny fence or small fence. And she takes it and says it's for self-defense. So she like quickly puts that to...
Not weird at all to carry around a steak for self-defense.
Well, haven't you heard, Kimmy, like pepper spray is so passé. So this is the cool new thing.
Okay. Right.
Other kids are doing. And they like want to know all about her, and she's like, how about no?
Yeah, no.
Because I have a lot to hide. Please don't investigate me. And Cordelia comes over and says that you won't be Jim is canceled. You won't be meeting Coach Foster, I think is what she says, the woman with the chest hair, because of the extreme dead guy in Cora's locker.
Right.
The extreme dead guy and like with the chest hair, how she like gestures with her hand to like her chest. The woman with the chest hair. She does it so well, that line. I just love it. And of course, Buffy's Slayer senses are tingling and wants to know about the body, how he died, are there marks, and everyone's horrified that she's asking these questions about this dead guy that's on campus.
Morbid. The new girl is so morbid.
Yeah, and Cordelia's like, ew. Like, already kind of starting to be like, I don't know about this girl. I don't know about this girl. She's been caught her hanging out with the lowlifes of the school, and also she's asking about, are there any marks on this dead body? So she's like, ew. And, so Buffy just gets up and is like, I have to go. We know she's going to go investigate the body. So
she has to sneak out and investigate.
Yeah, so she goes back to the library, and this is my favorite scene. Because there's so much exposition, and it, like, is the first, like, connection, I guess. Loose, like, light, but, first connection between Giles and Buffy, which is, like, one of my favorite relationships in the show.
Yeah.
And she confronts him like, hey, like, there wasn't supposed to be vampires here. I'm retired. I'm not interested in being involved in my like sacred duty and stuff that I've been chosen for.
Anymore.
Don't want to do it. Been there, slayed that. Not interested. And he's of course like, no, well, you're
the chosen one.
You're the chosen one. You need to do this. And he says this line, or it's a bit of his little speech. And also there's exposition. There's so much exposition here about like how a vampire kills you versus turns you, the Hellmouth, what a watcher is, what a slayer is. That's why I like this scene so much, because it really like starts getting all the like world building going. Because like after the scene, you know so much more about the world that they live in than you did before. He says, will he rise again? Which usually isn't what they say from here on out. They use the term turned. So obviously they're figuring out the Buffy speak, because there's a lot of Buffy speak, like words that they made up for Buffy and stuff. And
right.
So when he asks her, will he rise again? And she's like, no, you have to suck their blood. They have to suck your blood. It's a whole sucking thing. I don't really know how she knows that he didn't suck anybody's blood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
she
wasn't there. She didn't see him be killed. But then I think to another scene way, way later in the last season where she just looks at she looks at a dead body and knows it's going to turn. And nothing is said about it.
Okay.
She doesn't explain why. So maybe there's something that I just...
She has some sort of Buffy super Spidey sense.
Yeah, maybe she does. So please, if there's something that I've missed in the whole show, let me know about how she can just on sight know if someone's going to turn or not. Because she didn't see them being bitten. She didn't see whether they were turned or not. Yeah. So that was something that I was like, how does she know he's not going to turn? So she's like, no, he's just a dead guy, and that's fine, I guess. And then he says, like, do you think it's a coincidence you being here? He has this whole, like, destiny thing, like her at this point, obviously her being the Slayer, but her coming to the town at this point in her life. Yeah. And she doesn't want to, like, be involved in any of it. And one thing that I noticed when Giles is talking to Buffy, when he has all the books in his hands, the book on top, because this is something I always wanted to see, like what they're holding, what's in the background, what's on the shelves. He's holding a book called The Legend of the Seventh Virgin by Eleanor Alice Burford, and it was published in 1965. And it's basically like a haunted mansion, a haunted house book.
Interesting.
There were like nuns living there, and something happened in the house, and like it was a nunnery at one point, and something happened. And then this like new generation of people move in, and it's a housekeeper or something like that. I can't remember, but like stuff happens in the house. Okay. And it like starts again in the house. So that's interesting that they chose to put that book on top. And it's kind of like a haunted house book. He kind of says one of his famous like speeches. He's like, you're the Slayer. In each generation, a Slayer is born. One girl in all the world. Ooh, our name. Mm-hmm. Yep. Chosen one born with the strength and skill. The strength and skill to hunt the vampires, to stop the spread of their evil, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it, okay. And then, of course, Buffy comes in and she's like, I've heard this speech. I've had a watcher before. And he also says, like, what do you know about this place? Sunnyvale. I said Sunnydale? God, I always do this. I'm sorry. If I say Sunnyvale, I mean Sunnydale. Oh, it's living on the Hellmouth. It just makes you, you know what I mean? It affects my brain, too. You know, I don't know where I'm at on the Hellmouth. But he says, you know, there's a history of this place. There's a steady stream of odd occurrences. This area has mystical energy. Like things come here that the supernatural and evil things are drawn to this area. Yeah. And he doesn't we know that it's the Hellmouth. Yeah. Angel kind of talks about that a little bit later, but he says the mouth of hell. The word Hellmouth hasn't been used yet. So I'm a little bit, it's not really spoilery, but yeah. So he's saying there's something not special. There's something interesting about Sunnydale where things come here. And she's like, oh, whatever, the Neiman Marcus comment about like it's 2 hours on the freeway from Neiman Marcus. So she's not interested in all the things. And then we kind of expand the universe too, because he talks about zombies, werewolves, and all this other stuff that's not just vampires. These are all real. You know, he says like everything that you were scared of, like that you ever dreaded under your bed,
it's actually
is real. And she's like, well, I only deal with vampires and I'm retired. So that's great. You deal with your werewolves yourself. And then also she says, why don't you kill him? And he's like, I'm the watcher. And she's like, they watch. But you kind of get like what a watcher is. It's like basically they're Slayer's guide, trainer, mentor, through their training and like getting
emotional support friend.
Yeah. And that's what he's supposed to be there for. He's not supposed to be doing the slaying. Yeah. And she really, when he says he needs to prepare her, she gets really upset. This is the first time she gets really like, before this, it kind of seems like an inconvenience, this whole thing. Like, oh, like vampires, like, man, like this isn't supposed to be happening here. Like, I'm just done with this. And then she really gets upset because you kind of like get all the emotion and everything she went through in the movie about getting kicked out of school, losing her friends.
Yeah.
Like, basically her mom was forced to kind of like give them a new start. Yep. She was basically forced to like leave the area because Buffy was just too notorious at that point for everything she did. Yeah. So not being able to let people in, not being able to tell people who she really is, or even her own mother.
Yeah, which is hard.
Yeah, so she's had to isolate herself, and she's telling him like, I've already done all that. I've already experienced all that. You're not going to be able to do anything for me. So, and then, she walks out, and I don't think this stunt is done very well. I'm going to be honest. When Xander comes out from the stacks and says, what? Him saying, what?
Like, it's a little minimal, but again, it's like a throwback to when he found the stake in the backpack, and it's just like more foreshadowing.
Yeah, I just feel like, I can't remember now, but I feel like I liked it better done, how it was done, whatever he said in the unaired pilot. It was a little bit different. I can't remember now, but I think I liked it better. I just feel like even if he had just looked at, like, come out and been like
just stunned instead of saying what.
Yeah, even it's the way he said it. Like, I just didn't like the way it was acted.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I liked the cheesiness a little bit, though, just in contrast to like what she was just experiencing. So it was just kind of like lightening the mood a little bit. Yeah. I don't know.
No, yeah, that's a good point. So Xander has like now been like, what are these two talking about?
Yeah, he's really starting to get into it now.
He's like, okay, the steak and this. Xander's not the brightest.
No,
Xander's not the brightest character in the show. But even him, he can put two and two
he's
together.
Picking something up,
even though he thinks they're both insane.
Well, who wouldn't?
I mean, yeah. So Buffy runs out into the hallway. Giles follows her, and it's a fine line with Buffy and Giles, especially in the early seasons where she's 16 years old. He's late 40s, maybe. Yeah. And he's her teacher, and he's like really like up on her in the hallway. And like Joss Whedon always said, like they had like tried to keep 6 feet in between them because it looked creepy.
Yeah.
It looked inappropriate.
Yeah.
And like, so they said like always trying to like keep them 6 feet apart. Which is hard when like you're acting and you're like, you know what I mean? And you're trying to like get into it and everything, but like it looks gross in the hallway and stuff when he's like too close to her, and he's kind of like kind of not grabbing her, but like trying to get her attention and stuff, and like an outsider's perspective, be like,
it'd be weird.
Wow, this teacher, what's going on with this teacher? Yeah. He basically says something's going to happen. It's going to happen soon, and you came here for a reason. And she says it's a Sunnydale, like always underestimating Sunnydale in the beginning. Everyone, like it's supposed to be this really downplayed place,
sleepy town.
Yeah, like how much bad evil can there be? And then you kind of like go under the high school area, dun. Yeah, and you're like, oh, what's down here? It's like some underground layer that we notice looks familiar from Buffy's dream. And there's like a vampire praying to a pool of blood, and he says the sleeper will wake. Yeah. So obviously they're like waiting for something to happen in this pool of blood.
It's like they're conjuring things.
Yeah. And so we don't know what it is, though.
Nope.
So we kind of fast forward through the day. Buffy's done with school. She's at home picking out her clothes for the Bronze. She's going to go to the Bronze.
This part was funny.
And she's holding up 2 outfits.
2 very different outfits.
I am an enormous slut. Would you like a copy of the Watchtower? And apparently it was a battle to keep slut in. because WB did not want the word slut in.
Okay, I could see that.
And then, if people don't know, I didn't have to look this up because I knew this. Like, the Watchtower is the magazine that Jehovah Witnesses give out when they come to your door. Yeah. So it was very like, modest isn't even. It doesn't. I don't know why she even had that in her closet. To be honest,
Yeah,
it doesn't look anything Buffy wears in the entire
style
show. So it's a really frilly, floral, big collar. Something I would wear.
But also, I mean, like the other outfit too, like the leather-ish looking thing. That's not super her either. Like she's kind of even keeled in the middle almost, at least in the first episode.
Yeah, I think that's why she says, like, I used to be so good at this.
Yeah.
Because, like, she's not, like, that person anymore that could just be like, oh, she doesn't worrying about, I mean, she does still. Yeah. But, like, clothes aren't her number one priority anymore.
Yeah.
So she's finding it hard to, like, get back into that social things that people think about that when they go out to a club.
That's the thing, too. Like, I feel like with this outfit choice, they're also kind of pointing out in this show, like, it's hard enough being a 16-year-old girl, just in general, with all of your normal 16-year-old girl things, but having all of that on top of it is just... So I feel like they did a little bit of a nod there to her just trying to, like, find some normalcy.
Yeah, be normal. Like, that's, like, a theme in this whole show, is Buffy trying to, like, have some kind of normal life amongst all this. And sometimes she does it more successfully than others. Usually not. Yeah. Because how can you, really?
Out of her control.
It's like a battle she always fights.
Yeah.
Trying to be normal. Well, maybe you just aren't. Yeah. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, she always is trying to just be normal.
She wants it so bad, though.
Yeah, she does. So her mom comes in and she says, oh, I'm going to a club. I'm like, I couldn't just show up in my bed and say, I'm going to a club. I'm 16. Like, my mom wouldn't have been like, okay.
Oh, okay. My mom, actually, I did do that when I was 16. My mom didn't care.
I mean, I would have been able to go if I had, like, asked, but I wouldn't. It would just be like, oh, it's night and I'm just going to leave the house. Like, I don't know. It just seemed weird to me. But I love when she was like, will there be boys there?
Oh, yeah. That was funny.
No, Mom. It's a nun club. Maybe that's the nun connection from the book.
She is very witty.
Yeah, the writing on this show is top notch. It's like the number one, like, best thing about this show is the writing, and it just gets stronger and stronger. Yeah. And so she's like, okay, like, that's fine. And she's trying to, like, tiptoe around, like, parenting enough, but not too much. And, like, you know, those teenage years that parents have to deal with.
Especially when your daughter burned down her high school.
Yeah. She definitely wants her to get off on the right foot in Sunnydale. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now she's going to, like, make it work with the gallery. Her mom is opening a gallery in Sunnydale. That's her mom's job. And is going to get it off her feet and make a good start for them. Yeah. So Buffy's on her way to the Bronze. Didn't pick any of the outfits that she had.
I like the outfits she picked, actually.
I do, but it wasn't any of her options. No. She went back to the drawing board, apparently. So she notices someone is following her.
Yes, I like this part, too.
And, I mean, this is an iconic scene.
Yeah.
And she goes leads this person into an alley and kind of disappears and is, like, up on I don't know what the heck. It was like a pole going across the alley.
Flagpole without a flag?
Sideways flagpole.
Yeah, I don't know.
And she's, like, just doing, like, a handstand basically on it. And the person
core muscles must be insane.
Yeah, I mean, she's got Slayer strength. She can do whatever she wants. And she basically comes down behind the person and kicks them and, like, disarms them. And she, like, puts her foot on their neck. And we see it says guy. Hot guy. And he David
Boreanaz.
Yeah, David Boreanaz as Angel is introduced, which is, like, such a big deal if you've ever seen the show. Yeah. He's a major character. Yeah. And he kind of warns her that things are happening and that the harvest, this is, like, something that's going to happen called the harvest is going to happen, and she needs to prepare. Yeah. And he throws this box at her, and it's a silver cross necklace. And I just have my notes, velvet blazer. That velvet blazer, Angel.
I don't think I noticed that. His face distracted me from the blazer, I guess.
Yeah, that can happen. Believe me, I was Angel, like,
Did you watch the show Bones?
No.
Okay,
I never
so
really
in
watched
that show.
it. Yeah.
Okay, and I had a crush on him.
I mean, who didn't? I had a cardboard cutout of him in my bedroom.
That's so great.
Okay. And I had it looking out over the street, which was probably real creepy for people. Like I had it facing out my window. So when I'd come home, I'd see David Brown looking out my window waiting for me.
He was waiting for you to come home every day. That's so great.
And then he was joined by another cardboard cutout, which we will not see until season 2.
Oh, I have a feeling I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
I know who this is.
My ultimate favorite character. So, so she's very wary of this guy. He comes off
intimidating.
Very mysterious and intimidating. She's not having it. And doesn't like his vagueness and all that.
His vibe is off.
She's like, okay, well, now I'm going to the Bronze. Now that I've gotten my hot guy encounter over for the night. And they go to the Bronze. It's the first time we're at the Bronze. And the band that is playing, the first band we see in the Bronze is Sprung Monkey. That's the name of the band. And we hear some of their music later on. But I think this is the only time you actually see them on stage, like the actual band. And Buffy sees Willow sitting there in another stunner outfit.
This also surprised me, though, because she just doesn't seem like the type to go to a club.
Even show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just true. Especially Willow, like early Willow. Mm-hmm. Like it does seem like, because I would even be weird. Like I would even be like awkward going to a club by myself and sitting at the bar by myself.
Yeah, super awkward.
Not even meeting anybody there because she like doesn't even know if Xander's showing up.
Yeah,
she's hoping.
Yeah. Yes,
she doesn't know. So basically, she gives her some dating advice. She says that her and Xander used to go out when they were 5.
That was so cute.
But broke up because he stole her Barbie.
Yeah.
So, these people, so that tells you how long they have been friends.
Yeah.
Like, they've been friends, like, pre-kindergarten.
And she's been pining after him ever since.
Yeah. And I don't know if we really get that in this episode yet.
I mean, as someone who hasn't really watched the show, that's how I took that.
Well, good, because that's true.
Okay.
That's good. So she gives her kind of dating advice because she says, like, she goes basically nonverbal around boys and tells her, like, who cares? If if anyone knows about life is short, it's a Slayer. Yeah. Even though she can't tell Willow that. So basically, just go for it because who cares if this guy laughs at you? You could be dead tomorrow. And she's like, oh, I like that.
Such good advice.
You could be dead tomorrow. I like that. And then they're talking about that, and Buffy looks up and sees Giles hanging up on the balcony.
Like,
creepy.
What's this guy doing here?
Oh, I know and love Giles because I know him, but like it's so creepy.
Yeah.
To be hanging out up there
at a teenager club.
Yeah, and so she tells her she'll come back. She'll come back, and it's so sad that Willow's like,
"You don't have to." I was like, "Oh, girl,
you don't have to call." Like people say that and they don't mean it, and it's okay, and it's so sad.
Yeah, like
it just shows how worthless I think she thinks she is.
Yeah,
that this person's just making an excuse to get away from her at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy says, "No, I'll come back." So she goes up there to kind of confront Giles, and she even says, isn't it kind of skanky? I think she says skanky.
Skanky, she does.
Skanky that you're hanging out with students and stuff. And okay, I'm glad at least they called some attention to how weird it is. And it continues to be weird for a while. He says, "Oh, you think this is my idea of fun? I'd rather be home with a cup of Broville, and a good book."
Yes.
And for some reason, every time I watched this, I heard like rum or I heard some kind of like alcohol.
Okay, so what is this?
And it was this is the watching with subtitles on that I wanted to do.
Oh, smart. Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's not alcohol. So I Googled it. This is disgusting. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
Bovril is a meat extract paste.
What?
Made into a drink with hot water.
Like mead.
Meat.
No, yeah, but like back in the olden days,
is that what
they
mead?
made? I think that's how they made mead in the olden days.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay, I don't know. That would be interesting.
Okay.
It was like really like sold in the UK, which makes sense. I mean, he's from England. Meat paste drink.
Ew.
Giles, no.
He kind of just said tea. They wanted it to make it extra English, I guess.
Like I'm just like nobody would know what that was.
No.
Anyway, I learned something new, and that Giles likes this crap. Gross. So they're talking, and then we go down back into the club, and Jesse is trying to like come on to Cordelia and get her to dance, and he's more nasty Cordelia. I mean, Jesse's a little bit like...
He's kind of not great.
He's like just kind of like trying to be smooth, and he's just like...
He's a little skeezy.
I mean, I would tell him to go away, too. But she's mean anyway.
Yeah.
Rejects him, and then he kind of is like, okay, I'm going to find somebody else. Plenty of fish in the sea. So now we're back up in the balcony, and Giles is kind of telling her how she needs to be able to spot a vampire on sight and to like look out on the crowd and like see if there's a vampire here right now. And she picks somebody out and based on their clothing. And he's like, but you didn't hone your senses. And she didn't. He's like, but you didn't hone. And he's dressed like from like the 70s or something. So that's how she knows he's a vampire. And sees that he's talking to Willow.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because Willow's following her advice.
Buffy just told her to do that. Seize the day.
Yeah. And now she's talking to someone that's going to kill her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she runs off to try to save Willow. By the time she gets down there, they're gone.
Yeah.
And well, she's looking for them. And then we see Jesse has found someone to talk to, and we see that it's the girl from the opening scene. So the vampire that bit the guy, the dead guy, the extreme dead guy in the locker. And we find out that her name is Darla.
And like, who is this actress in real life again? I can't remember her name. She's such a great pick for this
Julie
character.
Benz.
Yeah. Okay. She was a great pick for this. I love her voice. It suits the character.
Yeah. And that was like, I think I've read like some stuff about her, about how coming up with Darla and like how she wanted her to be like really like initially really like sweet and like her little sing-song voice, like nothing, this girl couldn't do anything to you.
Okay.
Which she does. Get that across, I think.
Yeah.
So then we go back to this lair, this pool of blood lair, and this vampire is rising out of the pool of blood. It's the vampire that we see from Buffy's dream. Yep. So he's now out, and he's being referred to as Master. And he's weak. They're like helping him move, and basically they're saying he needs to feed, and he will be restored to full strength from the harvest. And, like, the CGI effect of him coming out of the blood is laughable. But it was 1997.
It's just good. Yeah, it's 1997. So, for back then, for a TV show, not terrible.
They wanted to do a practical effect where he actually came out of blood, but, like, he would it would have won a one take. And if it didn't work, then they would have completely ruined the shot. And, like, so they did the CGI to keep him clean. So obviously this guy and all this is connected to what Angel was talking about, which we don't know his name yet, technically, but his name is Angel.
Yeah.
And we see the vampire, the 70s vampire, who I think we later find out his name is Thomas, leading Willow through the graveyard, and they're supposed to go get ice cream. But he's like, oh, this is a shortcut. Oh, okay.
Through the graveyard. Come on.
And she is apprehensive. Like, she's not like totally
follows him.
She does. I think she's just like, this is the only guy that's ever showed me any interest. I'm not going to run off at the first spooky walk through a graveyard. And so they walk off into the graveyard. And back at the Bronze, Buffy is looking for Willow and runs into Xander and is like, where's Willow? And he basically is like, I don't know where she is. Like, I don't know. And basically he's like, oh, unless you have to like slay something or something like that. And
nice reference.
And she's like, oh, like, how do you know? And he's like, I think you think all this. Yeah. Like, basically thinking that she's crazy.
Yeah.
And things will turn a little bit. At least he believes that Willow is in danger for some reason, whether it's actually from vampires, whatever. Yeah. Willow went off with some guy, and Buffy's worried. So whether the rest of this is all true isn't really isn't a priority right now. He's like concerned that something's happening to Willow. So he kind of like, I think, shelves that conversation for now. Thomas, or the 70s vampire, leads
Willow.
Or tries to lead Willow into the crypt.
But she's starting to get like, she's like, no, this is
creepy.
No.
Yeah.
I want to go home now.
And at that point, he just grabs her and throws her in.
Yeah.
So at least she didn't walk in there.
Yeah.
Give her that. And she like wants to like get out, and he's like, you know, obviously she wants to leave, and he's like, no. And then Darla leads Jesse into the crypt, and he's already been bitten, and he's kind of like woozy. And I laugh when Darla says, "You're not leaving until we feed," and her face changes.
Yeah, that was
her vamp face. It's early, okay, guys? It's early. The vamp face transitioned much better throughout the years. I think this is why some people have a hard time getting through the first season. The effects, you know, it's a bit dated.
Still good. It's still good.
Take it with a grain, you know.
Yeah. It made me chuckle a bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Hang in there, it improves. So Buffy shows up and he starts fighting everybody. And here's another reference. She tells him talking to Thomas about his outfit, and tells him, "You look like DeBarge." And I had no idea who DeBarge was.
I didn't pick up on that. Okay.
And I looked him up, and it's a musical, like kind of like the Jackson 5, I think, but they were adults, like a family musical group in 1979 to 1989. One of them was married to Janet Jackson previously, like an ex-husband of Janet Jackson. So they were just like a musical group, and I guess like in their time, like they just like really like from the 70s, 70s/80s. So he looked like them. And then she stakes him, and her and Darla fight while Xander gets everyone out, Jesse and Willow out of the tomb. And basically, it's about to go down for Darla. There's going to be the end for Darla and they don't know, obviously, that she's a Slayer. Even the vampires don't know. And she's like, "Don't you know who I am?" And then who we find out is Luke, who is the vampire that's kind of been kowtowing to the Master. Who was the one talking to the Master. His name's Luke. And he shows up and is way stronger than the other vampires and, like, totally, like, kicks Buffy's butt.
Yep.
And they're just fighting, and she's barely holding her own. And he says, after he starts, like every villain, they tell you what's going to happen. They tell you their master plan. I mean, all the time. And he starts saying, like, after the harvest, again, like, the Master will be free, and basically, like, men are going to fall, and, like, basically the undead, the vampires are going to take over the planet. Yeah. And he's saying all this while he's beating the crap out of her. She gets thrown into this tomb. Yeah. Like, sarcophagus, coffin thing with a dead body in there. Yeah. And he goes to bite her.
Yep. And then...
To be continued.
God, that killed me. Yeah,
I had forgotten that it ended up actually.
I texted you and I'm like, "What is this?"
Well, I was so glad to hear you say that. So that's the end of the episode. I was so glad to hear you text me that, because I was like, okay, because like I said, like people, and you know that you're already gonna get into it because you watched it.
I'm hooked already, though. I'm hooked
because people, I think, struggle with the first season.
I don't think I'm gonna struggle with the first season.
Yeah. Some people like don't make it through the first season. They really want to watch it, but they just can't get through the first season.
Okay. No, it's great.
That's good. That's good. Because like things that, you know, the ball is really rolling by like second season. Yeah. And like, you know everybody better, you know the world better, and like it's a little bit less monster.
Most shows go through their growing pains. The first 3 episodes. I never stop watching a show within the first 3 episodes.
Same.
That is when they get that's just how they get going. Like, it takes a few episodes to work out the kinks and kind of figure out the characters and like how things are going to go and people's voices. And so, yeah. But yeah, even just honestly, solidly the first season is always just kind of like, how's this going to go?
That is so funny you say that, because I have the same rule.
Yeah. You got to give it
at least 3 episodes. If I'm interested in a show, I always give it 3 episodes.
Yeah, you have to.
That's so funny. Yeah. So that is Welcome to the Hellmouth. And we already talked about our favorite scenes.
Yeah.
As we went through, but our favorite line. What was your favorite line?
Shoot, I don't.
Or I can go first if you want me to.
Yeah, you're gonna go first. Yep.
So when they're up in the balcony, Giles and Buffy, and he's like, "You need to hone your senses," and like blah blah blah, and she's like, "Over there," because of the way he looked. He's like, "But you didn't hone." Like, I just, it's so Giles, the Giles we know and love, come to love, and I just for that. And then the runner up was. Excuse me, I have to call everyone I've ever met right now.
It's really funny too, yeah.
And I actually we kind of glossed over that part.
Yeah.
That while looking for Willow, Buffy attacks Cordelia,
yeah.
thinking, she surprises her and she has a stake. And then it's the end for Buffy, I feel like, with Cordelia.
The friendship is over.
Yeah, like there's no way that Buffy's coming back from this. So when Cordelia says that, Cordelia. She is on now. She's ready to spread the news of Buffy and her craziness.
This is what people like Cordelia thrive on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah. Okay. So your favorite line?
I don't know. Shoot, I feel like I didn't come prepared with a favorite line.
Okay.
I will be prepared for next week.
Okay.
I just thought like anything like Buffy's mom was just super cute. Anything she said was really funny. How she's just trying to like
the nun club.
Trying to be like
Buffy said that.
She was just trying to be so cute and nice, but also like, okay, but let's not screw this up.
Yeah, like, okay, sweetie.
Yeah,
sweetie,
basically.
just like don't make us move again, okay? I'm gonna do my part and make sure we have like food on the table and like a roof over our head. Like, please don't burn down.
Don't burn things down. Not hard.
Please.
Super not hard.
Yeah. Okay. And I think I want to like eventually we're still getting like our sea legs with the podcast.
Yes.
But I think I want to figure out a way where we both have our favorite scene and our favorite line and then somehow we can have people vote on it on Instagram.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
They like or like put their own or which they prefer or whatever. I think that would be fun. I got to figure out a way because on Instagram your things can only last your stories like your polls can only last 24 hours.
Yeah.
I'd like it to last longer than that. So I'm working that out. Maybe I'll do it as a post. But yeah, so keep watching for voting on our favorite scenes and our favorite lines.
Okay.
And then I thought we could do like a steak rating out of 5.
Oh, okay. For this episode?
Yeah. Should we do out of 10 or out of 5?
I think 5.
Okay, out of 5. So I can go first so you can have a second to think about it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 steak.
Ooh. Okay, I was going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. Can we do half steaks?
Sure. You can do as many decibels as you want because I feel like this is going to get complicated. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, so I gave it 3 out of 5. I just feel like it's a strong first episode, but it's a first episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, similar feeling. Like you can tell there's going to be a lot more character development and they're just kind of getting their bearings straight in the first episode.
Establishing everything.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we like talked about now we can talk about the pilot. Did you end up watching the pilot?
I didn't. The unaired one.
I didn't.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't watch it.
So there was a few things that I wanted to mention about it that I thought were interesting.
Okay.
Some things I thought were done better. Buffy's a brunette in the first pilot.
Oh,
or she's at least much darker hair.
Interesting.
Maybe not totally brunette because Sarah Michelle Gellar is a natural brunette. And Principal Flutie is Stephen Tobolowsky. And he's like one of those actors where you've seen in everything, but you wouldn't know his name.
Okay.
And he was so great. Every time he saw Buffy, because he had more scenes, every time he saw her, he'd call her Bambi. Bambi, Bunny.
Oh my God.
He always getting her name wrong.
That's hilarious.
And it was so funny. And he was
I'm going to have to watch this. Okay.
So good. And I've seen him. He's been in all kinds of shows throughout the years. Like you'll know his face. And I thought he was perfect. And I was like disappointed that he wasn't Principal Flutie.
Yeah, the principal they got was just, he wasn't, great.
Yeah. So, and then I think it also said, it was such bad quality, but I think I read somewhere that it said Berryman High School. Oh. Berryman High School instead of Sunnydale High School. So I don't know what that was about.
Okay.
Willow was played by Riff Regan. Remember I told you Willow was recast.
Oh yeah, you did say that.
So
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, just very different. Google her because she doesn't look anything like Alison Hannigan.
Huh,
and they said that she was weirdly. They said that she was too timid, even though the Willow we got was pretty timid.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't really good chemistry between like her and Xander and stuff. And that was true. I think definitely better chemistry with Alison Hannigan, with Nicholas Brendan. I mean, and there's one scene I wish they would have kept, and it was like Xander and Buffy walk through the like. Where they had lunch, like kind of like the quad or whatever in front of the school. And he's like walking her through all the different social groups in the school.
Cute.
Like the theater kids, the this kids. There's ones called like the dirty girls who don't shower. and like different groups. And she's like, oh, which one do you belong to? And he's like, well, I've applied to a few, haven't heard back. It's just a really good scene, and I just wish they could have kept it.
Sounds very iconic for
It might have
a high
been-
school show.
Yeah. Yes. You see that kind of scene often, and it's
Yeah.
always funny.
Like Clueless.
Yeah, I just like that walkthrough. I thought it was like a really good scene. Maybe it was cut for time. Maybe
Yeah.
it was filmed again, or maybe it was filmed again, but maybe it was cut for time. I just thought it was really delightful, and I thought the episode would have been better for it.
Okay.
And then you get a little bit more in that favorite scene I was talking about. You get a little bit more Slayer Watcher exposition. Like you get a little bit more explanation about like Watchers and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I think that'll all come. I guess you don't need it all in the first episode, but I thought that was different. And like,
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna, I feel like in this episode at least they gave more than like I'd say a normal episode gives context and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was nice. At least they
did give a lot.
They delved into it. Yeah.
Yeah, they did give a lot. Yeah. And then the dusting, I can't remember how it looked in the episode, the actual episode. I'm not recalling, but I remember watching the under pilot how bad when the vampire was dusted, how bad it looked. It was like he kind of like dusted in stages, like he was like, and then it was dust, and like that's just that again. It's the same for like the vamp face change. Dusting gets much better.
Okay. Yeah.
It grows, and it's like really good effect because I mean vampires are dusted in like every episode.
Yeah,
I think every episode but one. Vampires. I had to check myself, but I think I know at least one episode no vampires are dusted. So it's you had to get that right at some point. So, but it was not good in the under pilot.
Yeah.
And then like the whole crypt fight happens, and the opening scene too with Darla and that guy happen on a stage in the theater, the school theater. And there's like a play gonna happen, so there's a set on the stage.
Oh.
And all this stuff happens on the set. So it was like way more like production value than in the crypt. And since they had already built it, I don't know why they didn't use it. Obviously,
this is the unaired episode.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So Buffy's fighting Luke and Darla and Thomas and all them on a set for a play, which was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was done really well, and I just like they already built it. They spent the money on it. I'm not sure why they downsized it to inside the crypt.
Interesting.
Not sure, but I did like that. It was cool. And in this version, there's no angel and no master. They're not in this episode. Obviously, they would come at some point, but they're not introduced in this episode at all.
Okay.
I think it actually flows a bit better than the one that they actually ended up with, because I think there's more walk and talks, and like they're walking and talking, and people are coming in and coming out, and you're still getting all the information that you get in the actual one that aired, but like it just seems a bit more fluid.
Yeah.
So I liked that. So yeah, that was like, and the guy in the beginning, that was a different actor as well. So they recast him, even though I don't think he ever even has a name. And then obviously Willow was recast. So
okay. I'll watch it. I'm curious now.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get all the same information mostly, but it's all done presented a different way. And Joss thought it was like a horrible, horrible pilot, so he never even put it on the DVDs.
Wow.
Like it was like an extra feature or whatever.
Huh.
It was never given. So that's how bad he thought it was. I don't think so. I don't think it was that bad. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw some of those in there. It's on YouTube. It's not great quality.
Yeah.
But it is there to see, it's interesting. So
okay.
I thought it'd be fun to do this little game with you, since you haven't seen. And even some of these, like, I would have to look up because they're so detailed. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a spoiler. So basically, I'm going to give you like a sentence for the next episode, and then there's going to be a blank, and you have to just guess what the fill in the blank would be.
For the next episode, the one I haven't seen yet?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So it's just you could guess right, but it's just going to be a guess.
Interesting.
So in the next episode, The Harvest, a computer key is hit. Which key is it?
It's got to be one of those Control-Alt-Delete ones. Delete.
Okay. Final answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought that'd be a fun little game to play.
Wait, and you're not going to tell me the right answers, are you? I have to wait until next. Okay. All right.
Well, until you watch it, you'll see it.
Right. I'll find out for myself. Okay.
Yeah, but anybody playing along, you can like put your own like guess of what it is. I don't want it to be something spoilery, obviously. So if something that's
fair.
Yeah, like so-and-so dies, guess who it is, or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, so something just a little fun little fill in the blank. Okay, so that's it for the first episode. Thanks for joining us for Welcome to the Hellmouth. So right now you can find us on iTunes and YouTube. If that expands, we will let you know. If you want to contact us, you can do that on Instagram and YouTube at One Girl in All the World Pod. You can leave comments there, send us a message. And then if you'd rather send an email, we have that, and it's onegirlpod@gmail.com. So, yeah. So I'm so glad you enjoyed the first episode.
I'm very eager for the next episode, but I will try to make it my Monday night weekly ritual. So I'll wait. So it's
and
fresh.
I didn't mention that we are going to be we record on Tuesdays, which that could change, but that doesn't matter to the listener. But we are going to post on Tuesdays because it's Buffy night and it has to be on a Tuesday. That's got to happen. So you'll be seeing new episodes every Tuesday. Okay. So yeah, and maybe we might take some breaks maybe between seasons here or there, but we'll just go along and see how we feel. Leave us some room for error. So hopefully that the season episodes are together. So if we need a break in between, we'll do it at the season break. So
that sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will be back next week with The Harvest.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see what that computer button is.
Yeah.